Hello everyone, DeckTrolls here, and today we have for you the Ancient Gear Golem deck. Now remember, I have 100 plus budget-friendly decks, so there's going to be a lot of fun content coming your way, so please make sure to like and subscribe for more fun content coming your way. So I need to let you know that in this profile I do have 2 copies of Ancient Gear Fusion, which is an expensive card. It's $30 each, but you have options to replace those cards for less expensive cards or non-expensive cards. Alright, let's get to it. Got 2 Ancient Gear Golem. Cannot be special summoned. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate any spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage. Got 3 Ancient Gear Ultimate Pound. Cannot be special summoned. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage up to twice per turn. When this attacking card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can discard 1 machine monster. This card can attack again in a row. If this card on the field is destroyed by a battle or card effect. Hold up. Yeah, up to twice per turn you can use that effect of discarding a card. I wasn't sure if I said that. If this card in the field is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can add 1 polymerization from your deck to your hand, and if you do, add 1 other Ancient Gear monster from your graveyard to your hand. Got 2 Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon. If this card was tribute summoned by tributing an Ancient Gear monster, if this card that was tribute summoned by tributing an Ancient Gear monster attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage to your opponent. Sometimes that wording is a little tricky, but yeah. If this card was tribute summoned by tributing a gadget monster, it can make a second attack during each battle phase. If this card attacks, your opponent's spell and trap cards cannot, and monster effects cannot be activated until the end of the damage step. At the end of the damage step, if this card attacks, you can destroy 1 spell or trap card on the field. You have 3 Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. If this card is normal summoned, inflict 600 damage to your opponent. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate any spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step. Once per turn, you can fusion summon 1 Ancient Gear Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as materials. You got 3 Ancient Gear Frame. You can discard 1 card and add an Ancient Gear Golem or 1 Ancient Gear spell or trap card that specifically lists an Ancient Gear Golem in its text from your deck to your hand. You can only use the effect of Ancient Gear Frame once per turn. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step. If this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon up to 3 Ancient Gear Golem and or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound from your hand, ignoring their summoning conditions. You have 3 Ancient Gear Wyvern. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add 1 Ancient Gear card from your deck to your hand, except Ancient Gear Wyvern. Also, you cannot set cards for the rest of the turn. You can only use the effect of Ancient Gear Wyvern once per turn. If this card attacks, your opponent's monsters cannot activate their effects until the end of the damage step. And lastly, for the monsters, 1 Ancient Gear Box. If this card is added from the deck to the graveyard, deck or graveyard to the hand, except by drawing it, you can add 1 Earth Machine type monster with 500 attack or defense from your deck to your hand, except Ancient Gear Box. You can only use the effect of Ancient Gearbox once per turn. So this card is actually used to combo off with Ancient Gear Wyvern. So if you have the fusion card in your hand already, you summon your Ancient Gear Wyvern, you search your Ancient Gear box, you get another Ancient Gear Wyvern, and then you fuse. Unless you're going to go straight for your fuse, then you go with Ancient Gear Wyvern, then you get your Ancient Gear Fusion if you're going to be running it. It's not the budget-friendly card, so it's okay if you're not. And yeah. So now for the spells, we have 3 Gear Town. Both players can tribute summon Ancient Gear monsters with 1 less tribute than required. When this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. And we got 2 terraformings. Add 1 field spell from your deck to your hand. Got 3 Ancient Gear Catapult. While you control no monsters, target 1 face-up card you control and destroy it. Generally, you're going to be trying to destroy your Gear Town so you can special summon another monster. If you do, special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, and that way you can summon another monster. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon an Ancient Gear monster. Machine type, you can only use the effect of Ancient Gear Catapult. The effect per turn, you can only use once that turn. Here we have our 2 Ancient Gear Fusions. So there's a variety of cards you can switch this out for. You can switch it for either 2 Necrofusion, or 2 Polymerization, or even Overload Fusion. But this is what I have in my deck, and I highly recommend it because it is so good, but that's why it's so expensive at $30 each. I pulled one luckily, and then I bought the other. So fusion summon 1 Ancient Gear Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. If you use an Ancient Gear Golem or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound you control as a fusion material, you can also use monsters from your deck as materials. So that's why it's so good, because you can use other materials from your deck, and honestly it's so worth it. We also have 3 Power Bond. Fusion summon 1 machine type monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion materials, and it gains attack equal to its original attack. During the end phase of the turn this card is activated, you take damage equal to the amount of attack gained from this card's effect at the time of the summon. You got 2 Ancient Gear Fortress. During the turn they were normal or special summoned, your opponent cannot target Ancient Gear monsters you control with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of Ancient Gear cards or effects. If this card is destroyed in the spell or trap zone, you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your hand or graveyard. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Ancient Gear monsters. So that's another target for your catapult. You got 1 Monster Reborn. Target 1 monster in either player's graveyard, special summon it. And to add on to your power bonds, because of the new ban list, we have 3 limiter removals, which makes me so happy. So double the attack of all machine type monsters you currently control until the end of the turn. During the end phase of this turn, destroy those monsters. but you're usually going to go for game if you're going to be using those, so there you go. You got 2 Ancient Gear Workshop. Add 1 Ancient Gear monster from your graveyard to your hand. I just feel like it's a good way to get resources back. You got 1 Foolish Burial of Goods. Send 1 spell or trap card from your deck to the graveyard. You can only activate 1 Foolish Burial of Goods per turn. I would use this on your Ancient Gear Catapult. And lastly, for the only trap in the deck is Compulsory Evacuation Device. Unless you're going to be using something like Necrofusion, where you can fusion summon the monsters that you have in the grave. So your options instead of the Ancient Gear Fusion would be Necrofusion as an option. Fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your graveyard face down, but it cannot attack this turn. But being that you can summon it on your opponent's turn, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Alright, so now for the extra deck, I have 2 Ancient Gear Howitzer. It requires 2 Ancient Gear monsters, unaffected by other cards and effects. During your main phase, you can inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. You can only use this effect of Ancient Gear Howitzer once per turn. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. Alright, you got 2 Ancient Gear Megaton Golem. Honestly though, I would bump it up to 3 because it's worth it. Because it only requires 3 Ancient Gear monsters. So yeah, I would bump it up to 3. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate spells or traps until the end of the damage step, my bad. If this card was fusion summoned using 2 or more Ancient Gear Golems and or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound as materials, it can attack up to that many times as during the battle phase. So if you have like 2 or 3 Ancient Gear Golems or Ultimate Pounds, then it can attack 2 or 3 times. Otherwise, it'll attack once. If this face-up fusion monster in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's effect, you can special summon 1 Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. We have 3 Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. Requires 1 Ancient Gear Golem and 2 or more Ancient Gear monsters. So, it must be fusion summoned. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step. And if this card is destroyed, you can target 1 Ancient Gear Golem in your graveyard, special summon it, ignoring its summoning conditions. Alright, and lastly we have 2 Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, but again, I would bump it up to 3, but that's not always I'm sorry, I got a cough still. Alright, it's not always necessary because you're probably not going to be getting it out that many times, so 2 is a good number, solid number. So it requires 4 Ancient Gear monsters. Must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. It's unaffected by spell and trap cards. Your opponent cannot activate their effects during the battle phase. This card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, and if this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage to your opponent. Now, if you summon this with Power Bond, it'll instantly become 9,000 attack because it's already 4,500. And if you use limit removal, it'll be at 1,800 attack. And being that you can use limit removal like 3 times, it's great. I love it, dude. It's so good. Alright guys, so that is my Ancient Gear Golem deck profile. Please tell me what you think. What do you like? What do you dislike? What would you do differently? Please please comment below. I like when you guys comment. And remember, I have 100 and plus budget-friendly decks, so there's going to be a lot of fun content coming your way. So please make sure to like and subscribe. But most importantly, have fun.